again. Don't know where, don't know where.
Hello Year 3, I'm in Somerset visiting my parents. We're going to meet my dad today, who was a small boy in the Second World War and was actually evacuated twice. And I have some questions for him and hopefully we'll find out lots more about it.
Just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be long. They'll be happy to know that as you...
Where did you live when the war first started?
I lived in a place called Highbury in North London.
How did you know there was a war happening?
Well, I suppose I didn't until the day I was sent away on evacuation.
How old were you when you were first evacuated and what happened?
Well, I was about 3.5, not yet 4 years old, and it was really scary because my mother kept saying I was going away. We went to this sort of corner shop or place, and there were lots of children about, and we were all being gathered together to be taken off to the railway station. Well, we were taken to Paddington Station, where we were all put on a train, and we were taken to Bristol, and from Bristol we were taken down to a little village called Jewstoke, and I was billeted, as they used to call it. I stayed with a lady called Mr. and Mrs. Sparks. Mrs. Sparks was kindly. Mr. Sparks was a bit more distant. Don't think he liked having us around, and he was busy at work most of the time.
Did you like living in Somerset?
Well, at first it was very scary because I was very young, only 3, not yet 4, and so I didn't know anybody. And I remember screaming when they dumped me in a bath as soon as I got there. But
For how long were you in Somerset?
well, it was about 2 years, and there was a lull in the war. There was no bombing for a period after 2 years, so my mother came down and took me back to London.
Was London still being bombed when you returned?
Yes, there was some bombing. The worst bombing was called the Blitz, and that happened while I was in Somerset. But there was not so much bombing when I came back. But it was scary when it happened. I can remember my cots and beds shaking and the house shaking and people running to shelters.
Did you have a bomb shelter?
Because we lived in flats, about 3 families to each house. But there was a bomb shelter built outside in the road, a brick one. And sometimes I remember sleeping out in there.
Did you ever stay in an underground station for shelter?
I remember once we stayed in a place called Essex Road Station, underground station, and slept there. But I think we didn't sleep very well. There were a lot of people and quite a lot of noise, especially trains going through.
Did any bombs drop in your road?
Yes, they did, very close. First of all, in the earlier parts, halfway through the war, a whole row of houses was bombed and flattened just across the road from us, just down a bit on the other side of the road. And a lot of families died there. And also another near miss was when I was staying with my aunt and uncle in a place called Hounslow, West London. Someone invited me to stay in their indoor shelter for the night. I didn't want to go and stay there. I felt scared. And the sad thing was that very night a bomb fell on their house and they all died.
Why were you evacuated a second time?
There was a few months when it was quite peaceful. No bombs fell, especially when I stayed in Hounslow in Middlesex. But the Germans started sending over flying bombs, that is bombs which were just bombs, not aeroplanes, and they were jet propelled. And when the fuel ran out, they just dropped, and they dropped on people's houses in the cities, especially in London and other cities. And there had to be a new evacuation of all the children that in London who had returned home or never went in the first place. And I was sent off with once again from Paddington Station, trains full of children going to the west of England, and ended up again this time in South Wales.
How old were you the second time you were evacuated?
Well, I think I was 6, going on for 7 at that time.
What happened when you arrived in Wales?
Well, we got off the train at Neath in South Wales, a town called Neath. We were taken to a hall, and there were a lot of ladies there and I think a few gentlemen, and they started to choose to the children they wanted to go to live with them. At the end there were just 2 of us left, me and another boy, and there were a couple of ladies, and one of them took us both to live with her. Her name was Mrs. Hughes. Well, Mrs. Hughes and her husband Vic were very kind people. They had a nice home in a little village called Jersey Marine in South Wales, between Neath and Swansea, and I was very happy there, and they were very kind indeed.
For how long did you stay in Wales?
It was about a year or so, until about July 1945, because the war was just coming to an end then. And shortly after that, I went back to London. It was very sad to leave South Wales because it was lovely.
Thank you very much, Dad, for sharing your memories with us.